Greetings, Aaron here with a trigonometry problem. Given that cosine of x is 4/5 and x lies between 0 and 90 degrees, meaning it's in the first quadrant of a graph, determine the exact values of sine, cosine, and tangent of half of x. Show, work, and rationalize. Can someone help? Can someone show how to do cosine and tangent for this problem? Well, I'll show how to do all of them. And to do that, I'm going to switch programs here. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I will, well, this problem is actually, I think, pretty straightforward because they give you cosine of the angle equals 4/5. And then if you know the half angle formula, which you can look up in a math textbook or very easily online, then you know that cosine of half of x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine of x divided by 2. Sine of half of x is plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine x over 2. And tangent of half of x is, well, there's multiple expressions for this. Actually, there's multiple expressions for all of them. The one I'm going to use is 1 minus cosine x divided by 1 plus cosine of x. Since we are given cosine of x, all you have to do is just plug it into these three formula and calculate. And then it says rationalize. So so you want to get all the square roots out of the denominators of the fractions if you wind up with any. And I think that's pretty straightforward. The one catch is choosing whether or not to use the plus sign or the minus sign from these equations. And to make that choice, I think it's easiest to look at a graph. So I'm going to draw, there we go, draw an XY axis. So we have the x-axis, the y-axis, and I'll even label the negative x and negative y axes, although it's really just, it's the same axis, just positive direction versus negative direction in each one. Sine and cosine will be positive or negative depending on where, in which quadrant this angle lies. We're told that the original angle x is between 0 and 90 degrees, so that puts it into the first quadrant here. And then half of that will also, use a line, half of that will also live in the first quadrant, like so. Now, whenever you're in the first quadrant of a graph, the sine slash cosine slash tangent of an angle are always positive. So sine is positive in the first quadrant, cosine is positive in the first quadrant, and tangent is positive in the first quadrant. This will change in other quadrants. For example, in the second quadrant, sine is positive, but cosine is negative, and therefore tangent is negative. And in the third quadrant, sine is negative and cosine is negative, and that makes tangent positive. And then in the fourth quadrant, we have sine positive, cosine negative, and therefore tangent negative. But we're working in the first quadrant, so they're all positive. So just take the positive signs in all of these equations, and you should be good to go. I hope that helps. Let me stop sharing the screen here. All right, I hope that helps. And I hope to see you again soon. Thanks.